Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and this is a video response to Fantastic Dimensions' excellent video asking for and providing horror gaming tips. Now, Fantastic Dimensions offers a great number of tips that are very useful in his video, so I'll try and avoid repeating them too much. However, he also asks for video responses from members of the RPG community, asking what are our top tips for running horror games. Well, first of all, what is horror? Well, the Oxford English Dictionary defines it as a feeling of great shock, fear and disgust. And there's a few ways you can create that in your game, or help to create that. One of the ways is to vary the pacing of your game. After all, familiarity with anything makes it seem less scary and therefore less horrific. If you are constantly bombarding your players with evil monsters from beyond the outer darkness, then they will soon cease to lose all of their impact. And once that impact is lost, it's very hard to get it back. Another thing to bear in mind is that human evil can often be more unsettling than that of monsters. After all, especially to people who are seasoned role players, we all expect evil monsters to be, well, evil. The name monster sort of says it all. However, why do we find criminals, murderers, etc. so unsettling? Well, part of the reason, although not the only reason, is because outwardly they look like normal people, and it's that idea that you never know what's going on fully inside someone else's head that can really make for an unsettling experience. After all, that person sat next to you on the bus, the train, whatever, could easily be a killer, and you would have no way of knowing that unless one dark and lonely night that otherwise normal person who was sat next to you on the bus decides to make you their next victim. How many games have you played in where, let's say you're playing a Call of Cthulhu game for argument's sake, where you'll be exploring a fairly familiar setting, and at the first sign of people with strange deformities, someone will say, well, we're in a budget Innsmouth or something along those lines. It's an image that people are familiar with. Even the Cthulhu mythos stories themselves generally tried to keep their monsters off stage as much as possible, describing them as things mankind was not meant to understand. Now, that's an incredibly hard thing to pull off in a role-playing game. However, if a monster becomes simply a collection of hit points or abilities, then the horror is gone. They're reduced down to the level of a combat encounter waiting to be dealt with. If you keep them mysterious and keep them off stage for as long as you possibly can, though, saving them for a single big reveal at the end of your session or your game, then you preserve the impact of these creatures and maximise the horror potential. But even doing so, you can still lose that edge if, when the monster does make its grand entrance, it's simply a writhing mass of tentacles that attacks the players. Once that happens, then you're back on familiar ground. If you're an RPG, it's a matter of rolling some dice and hoping you manage to get the upper hand in whatever combat occurs. I find one of the best ways to keep the suspense, the horror, since the two are very closely interlinked, is during your game having the players encounter either misguided people or minions of the creatures that seem fairly close to human. By doing that, you contrast that with the final reveal of the creature itself, which, contrasting the everyday with the truly bizarre, is yet another way to increase the potential for horror in a game. After all, if you think of most horror films or most horror stories, they generally start off in fairly normal situations with people doing everyday things. And it's when things start to go wrong and that first subtle edge of the unnatural comes in that the horror starts to build. And once that horror does start to build, you have to keep the pace going, because there are few things more scary than feeling that your sense of control has gone and that you are no longer in control of a situation. And that is often the situation that the protagonists of horror fiction find themselves in. They go from the normal everyday, but once that surface is scratched and they see what lies beneath, from there on it's a steep slope down into madness and horror. So once your session starts building to that conclusion, keep the pace going, make it relentless, don't let it stop. Make your characters, even your players, feel out of control, although they should have the option to impact on the story, of course, because roleplay is an interactive hobby. Never let them feel that they truly know what is going on. After all, the fear of the unknown is far stronger than the fear of something which is familiar. Familiarity breeds contempt. And one final tip, as I've done in this video, as Fantastic Dimensions did in his video, when you're running a horror game, keep your voice modulated and calm. Don't be flying off in all different directions, getting highly emotional, unless you're playing an NPC who is emotional. Try and keep your GM descriptions as subtle and understated as you can. After all, if you're continually throwing monsters and stuff like that at your players, then again they'll become familiar with it, they'll know what to expect, they'll start second guessing you, and the horror will just ebb away. Keep things subtle at first. Start off with the everyday, and then once they have crested that hill and they start going on to the other side into the unknown, really ramp up the pace of your game. Don't let up for a moment until you build to your final explosive conclusion. So there you are. There's some additional tips for horror games. I'll put a link to Fantastic Dimensions video down below. I hope if you've enjoyed this video, you'll consider clicking on the red dice up there to subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it an eldritch thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, give it a forbidden thumbs down. And if you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments box down below. And if we all survive, then I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy gaming wherever you are in the world.